Today I'm joined in the studio by a wonderful person called Sana from the Plant Kitchen. Assalamu alaikum, Sana. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. I'm good, Amina. How are you? Today.
Wonderful. I think the last time we were here was during Ramadan, and we had our first shows then, and it was really good. We sparked some great conversations, we got the ball rolling, and we're just really glad to be back here and talk about other really important issues.
Of course, absolutely. And yeah, we had a really good show about food waste back in Ramadan. It was nice. And today we are going to talk about plastic.
Plastic indeed. Plastic. And specifically Plastic-Free July, what it's all about, and what we can do to reduce our plastic use. Now, many of our listeners might have been more aware in the past few years, the mainstream media has been reporting more about plastic, the harms it causes. So before we delve into what that's all about, just to remind listeners to text in if you are listening, so we know you're listening. Text in any questions you have about Plastic-Free July, and we're also live on our Green Guardians Leicester Instagram page, so you can also watch Sana live and also put your questions there in the comments section. So to begin with, Sana, what is Plastic-Free July?
So Plastic-Free July is a key initiative of the Plastic-Free Foundation that allows to work towards a vision of seeing a world free of plastic waste. The Plastic-Free Foundation Limited is an independent, not-for-profit organization established back in 2017 in Australia. It's a global movement of 326 million people across the globe from 177 countries who are taking the challenge in reducing their usage of single-use plastic. The good news is anyone can get involved. You can start up small or really challenge yourself. So the idea is to cut down on either a plastic straw, plastic cup, any kind of single-use plastic, or you can challenge yourself and make it bigger and just refuse to use any kind of single plastic to avoid pollution.
Wow, that sounds really good, and it's promising to hear that it's a growing movement and more people are becoming involved. I guess the next question is, and the most important is, what is wrong with plastic in the first place? I mean, it's so useful. We use it on a daily basis. It's everywhere. Even in the studio, we can spot so many plastic items. What is wrong with plastic?
So the problem with plastic, first of all, plastic was invented back in 1869 by a man called John Wesley Hyatt, and he invented it to save elephants, ironically.
Oh, wow.
Yes, because they used to use elephant ivory to actually use it as an alternative for plastic. And then to save elephants, they actually created the plastic that we know today. Now, the problem is there's a lot of single-use plastic. To make any kind of single-use plastic, we use rare fossil fuels. We use it for only a few minutes. So when you're going to a supermarket, you buy a single-use plastic bag, you'll use it for a few minutes or for an hour and then throw it away. So how do you feel about using something that's been made out of natural rare resources for a few minutes and then throw it away? It'll last in this planet for more than 80 years. We don't have enough facilities to recycle that kind of single-use plastic, so it's polluting our oceans, landfills, and killing marine life and animals across the world.
And that's only from producing plastic. I mean, I think there was images of an oil leak in the Gulf of Mexico this past week.
Yes.
That was absolutely horrible to look at and to think those kind of systems are creating the plastic we use. It's quite a horrible thought to have.
It is, absolutely. Each year 400 million tons of plastic is produced, and 40% of that is single use. Plastic will only use once before it's thrown away.
Wow. Could you explain to listeners what exactly single-use plastic is?
Yes, single-use plastic is any kind of plastic that we are using once only. We can't use it again, so we throw it away. So, for example, coffee cups that you get from coffee shops, plastic cups, plastic plates, cutleries, single-use plastic bags, or any kind of plastic that you're just using once and then you're throwing it away.
So what you're basically saying is it takes a lot of energy and time and resources to create one single straw, for example.
Yes.
And then what you're trying to say is we use it for only a few seconds or a minute or so, and then it goes into the bin. So it seems like a very wastey thing, doesn't it?
It is.
Okay, I understand.
And
yeah.
when we throw it away, eat it and probably die from it because it's not food, it's plastic. And
Okay, so hang on a second there. So both of us are based in Leicester City.
Yes.
Both of us have, we have the orange bag recycling scheme where we can put a lot of different plastics in the so-called recycling scheme.
Yes.
Are you telling me that ends up in landfill somewhere?
sometimes it does. So we've seen news where a lot of unrecycled trash ends up in Malaysia.
Okay.
And now in Turkey. Yes, there is a lot mountains of rubbish in third world countries or in countries in Asia where anything that's all of technology, all of laptops, mobiles, they end up in Africa as metal scrap, and then any kind of plastic ends up in Malaysia. I think Malaysia said they don't want it anymore, so it's ending up in Turkey now. Not all of it can be recycled, and it will be eventually dumped in oceans, killing marine life.
My goodness.
And
And
polluting our oceans.
that's really disturbing. And I think I remember seeing an image recently of, was it a yogurt tub on a Turkey beach from one of our UK mainstream supermarkets? And I thought, what is a yogurt tub from, that supermarket doing on a beautiful beach in Turkey, but no
Yeah.
longer beautiful because of the plastic that has ended there? That's very, very interesting.
So that's what is wrong with plastic.
Okay. So I know you've had a lot of experience with plastic and specifically plastic pollution. You've seen firsthand the effects. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, so it was back in June 2018 when I went to Sri Lanka for a volunteering program. And the project was to save sea turtles. So we were on the beach helping sea turtles, protecting their eggs and all that kind of work. And one day there was this turtle that we found on the shore, and his fin was entangled in plastic, but it's been there for a very long time, and he couldn't swim properly because obviously his fin wasn't working for him. So we took the turtle, took it to the vet nearby, and she said that she couldn't save it, and the fin had to be cut. So that was really sad. But the worst news was we couldn't put him back in the ocean because it would be dangerous for him and he would eventually die. So they decided to leave him in the sanctuary where he would spend the rest of his life. Now, the saddest part is it wasn't a natural cause. It was something created by humans. And because of us, those animals are suffering. And I thought that when I come back to the UK, I need to raise this awareness that because of us throwing away things, not knowing where it's going, how it's affecting, animals are suffering.
That's absolutely heartbreaking. And I think, sometimes as Muslims, we forget that we have a responsibility. Allah has made us stewards or guardians, custodians of this beautiful earth we have created. And if we know that something is going to cause harm to another person, or animal or creature, however big or small, that's a cause of Allah's displeasure.
Yes.
And there's a hadith, no harm should be caused to others.
Of course.
Yeah, so that's something definitely we should think about. I think many of us, we see those images on documentaries of animals entangled or eating these plastic things, and we often think, well, that's not me. I don't throw my plastic on the road or in the sea.
Yeah.
What would you say to people who say that?
I think be very mindful of the single-use plastic that you buy. Just ask yourself, do I need it? We've got so many alternatives available now. Just before you buy any kind of single-use plastic, ask yourself, do I really need it?
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. Now, a lot of listeners have been saying that, well, we're only individuals, just one or two people reducing their plastic usage. What good is it going to be? It's mainly the massive businesses, corporations who are the biggest polluters on this planet, and surely they should be taking responsibility and direct action. What's one person who's not going to use straws or not going to use plastic bags? What difference are they going to make?
That's a good question. I'm not going to lie. I've always, there are times where I've felt that all the changes that I'm making, is it really making a difference? I'd like to believe, yes, it is making a difference. If each one of us made that difference, we can see with all these big brands changing the way they make things now. I mean, like for veganism, you see a lot of big brands making vegan stuff now, and a lot of them are changing plastic and replacing it with cardboard, for example. So there are small changes happening, but as a consumer, I think you have to choose. You have to choose what you're buying, and by choosing that, you're influencing the choices. And I think the big brands or corporates will make a change eventually. They are aware of the pollution they are causing also. But it's not an easy swap to do, unfortunately. So I'm hoping there'll come a time when those changes will happen.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I think from an Islamic perspective as well, I think if we do these small changes and are just aware of what we're consuming and buying with the intention of not causing harm to Allah's creation,
Absolutely.
that's a source of pleasure, Allah's pleasure and reward. And I think it would be wrong, in my eyes, it'd be wrong to know about the harms of plastic, and if you can swap that plastic out, but you don't, despite knowing the harms, that's something which is a bit difficult, a bit shady for me, and that seems a bit wrong to do.
Yes,
personally.
yes, absolutely. I mean, most of the time when we throw away things, we don't really realize where they go. We don't really think on how it'll affect an animal or the planet. And if we started thinking about it, we'll make some better changes. Absolutely.
I hope so, inshallah. So can you give me 3 things which you have examples of plastic which you have kind of cut down on in your personal life?
Okay, and I think we've got some things here that I would really like to show our
Absolutely.
audience.
So for listeners, Sana's got some plastic alternatives which she's showing the camera about. If you can describe them to the people listening as well, please.
Sure, of course. So what I have in my hand currently is a soy wax wrap or a beeswax wrap.
It's beeswax.
That's a beeswax wrap. How do I use it? It's actually used in your kitchen instead of cling film or foil. It's a reusable wax wrap. So what you do is, I've got a bowl here. Thanks, AAMENAH, for this, by the way. And what you do, you just cover it, and it's really nice. It covers it really well. You can see what I'm doing here.
So using the warmth of your hand, you kind of mold the cloth to cover something. And I think it looks a lot prettier than cling film, in my opinion.
It does. And it's zero waste. You're saving the planet, and you can wash it and reuse it again. It's amazing.
Once it does lose its stickiness, what can you do with that?
So currently I have one that's losing its stickiness, but I've got a kit I've got the wax at home, so I'm going to try and melt the wax and, redo it again to reuse it. But the good thing is this is cotton. The material that's used is cotton, 100% biodegradable, and the wax also is not going to harm the planet. So if you're thinking to throw it away in a nicer manner, and it's not going to damage the planet.
You can compost it or cut it into pieces and put it in your garden, isn't it?
That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yes, you could do that.
I think beeswax wraps are also really handy to cover food in. Could you just show the listeners how to cover an apple? Didn't see the point of covering a whole apple, but just for purpose of demonstration.
I've got another one that's really nice, and I've got an apple here, so I'm just going to cover my apple like that, and it's done.
And you can make cute pouches. My husband has been using these wraps
materials, some wax, and melt it, and just make your own.
Right, so what do we have next over there?
So we have another useful thing. That's a metal straw. So instead of using a plastic straw, you can use a metal straw. Keep it with you in your handbag, in your car, and you can reuse it every time you're getting a takeaway. Just use your metal straw.
Yeah. I think we have to just be brave enough to tell the people we're buying our food from, I don't want the straw.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we can see that a lot of them are changing into paper straws also.
Yes.
But if you were to have your metal straw, you can also be zero waste, because paper will be eventually thrown away, but you'll have a metal straw and it's zero waste, protecting the planet at the same time.
Okay. What else?
We have a shampoo from Lush. So it's a shampoo bar. Instead of using shampoo bottles, because you'll be throwing away that bottle, this is a zero waste idea. You get the Lush bars from Lush, or you can get shampoo bars from any zero waste shop. You can use it, Oops, I thought I had a question. Sorry. You can use it, and yeah, it's really good for the planet, and it's not toxic.
And it works like a normal. So I think I've had a really good experience with shampoo bars.
Smells nice.
It smells lovely, doesn't it? They lather up really well.
Yes.
And they last for, I think I wash my hair quite often, like 6 or 7 months. And they take up less space. So even if traveling or going away somewhere, you don't have a huge bottle of shampoo in your luggage. You just have a small little bar, and it's perfect.
Yeah, I think traveling and having zero waste stuff is so convenient because it's taking less space, and it's just convenient.
Definitely. Right. So what else do we have there?
I have one more thing. I think that's the last thing we have. So we have a cotton bud, a reusable cotton bud. Do you want to tell us the material that's made with?
I'm not sure actually what it's made of, but I was given it as a gift by my sister, who knows I'm a bit addicted to cotton buds. And you can use this over 1,000 times, and it comes in a very cool little case.
I know. Look, this is the case, and you can actually cover it and protect it from dust or anything. And I think it's quite cool.
I think these make fab gift ideas as well.
I know it does.
Yeah.
It's really convenient.
And there's one more thing.
A water bottle.
Yes.
Like, how cute is that? It's one from Chili's, actually. It's really nice. It's one green bottle. It's amazing. You can have it with you, so you stop buying single-use plastic bottles.
Yes.
And you're saving the environment.
Absolutely. I mean, I was litter picking on Saturday with the Green Guardians in Spinney Hill Park, and we came across a lot of water bottles.
Yeah.
And it's just, if everyone just invested in one bottle,
Of course.
or just reuse a plastic bottle, there's nothing wrong with doing that as long as you keep it clean. It works just as fine.
Of course.
Yeah. So, Sana, can you give your top 3 tips to listeners on how to reduce their plastic use?
First of all, I think the easy swaps that you can do is plastic bags. Have in your car or in your handbag some reusable tote bags that, whenever you're going to supermarkets or anything, have your bags with you so you're not spending 5p or 10p to buy another plastic bag. They'll probably sit in your house, or you'll end up throwing it away. So yeah, that's one easy thing. You can have a plastic bag. A reusable bag, not a plastic bag.
But what about the bags for life that you get in supermarkets? Would you suggest people use those?
You mean the reusable bags for life? Yeah, you can use them. And also about the single-use plastic, shops like Asda and Sainsbury's always collect their bags back. And I know that Sainsbury's has got a really nice recycling scheme. Mm-hmm. So even if there are scenarios where you have forgotten your bag and you need to buy a single-use bag, get that and give it back to Sainsbury's, because they will definitely recycle it, for example.
That's great.
But always having a reusable bag, it's convenient, and it saves you money. Even though it's 5p, it saves you money. Definitely.
And I think I know that most supermarkets, if your bag for life does break, they'll take it back for free and give you a new one.
Yes, a new one, yes.
So if your bag does tear, don't chuck it away. Take it back to the supermarket, and they'll be more than happy to get you a new bag.
Yes.
So plastic bags are the first tip that you've suggested. What are the other 2?
The second one is having a cutlery pouch in your handbag. So whenever you're getting food, takeaways or anything, they always give you the single-use plastic cutleries. Say no to them. Have your cutlery pouch that's with either wooden spoon or metal spoons, and you can rewash it. You can reuse it. I always have one in my car, so yeah, it's quite convenient. And the third one, I would say, I'm a coffee drinker, and wherever I stop, I will always stop for a coffee. So having a coffee cup in your car, it's quite amazing, because you can just ask to any coffee company to just use your cup rather than using a single-use cup.
So there's some questions for that one. I think some listeners might feel a bit embarrassed, or how do I approach the barista telling them to use my own coffee cup? Have you received any kind of negative, responses from any people?
No, actually, they're more than happy. I think they're saving their cups, so they're more than happy to give you coffee in your own cup. I'll just go and ask. I mean, they usually see me walking in with my cup, so they know.
Yes, I think if you make that a bit normalize it.
Yes, and I think it's quite normal. I've done that so many times in Leicester, and yeah, it's normal. It's the new norm anyway.
That's great. And what about the reusable cutlery? So I think many people would be embarrassed to say, can you just leave the forks out and spoons out? I've got my own. What would you say to those people? What was your first time telling the people at a takeaway or something not to include the spoons? Can you remember that first time?
Yes. But I also had an incident in London on Saturday when the lady gave me a plastic spoon, and my first reaction was, that's plastic. And she looked at me and she's like, well, how are you going to eat? And I was like, it's fine. I've got something in my bag that can be used. But yeah, I think the first time was, again, in 2018 when I was making those changes. And we used to have a local fish and chip shop in where I used to live, and when I make the changes, they found me really weird. They said, "But you used to buy before," and I said, "Yeah, but I don't want it now. I don't want to throw it away." And eventually they understood, and every time we went in, they used to joke, and they're like, "It's fine, we won't put any in your bag."
That's great. And I think hadn't you sparked that conversation, those thoughts wouldn't have come through their minds. So I think those small interactions, although embarrassing and a bit, funny at first, actually can create change slowly and surely. And yeah, those small little interactions are really important to spreading the message. So good on you for that. I know a friend who went to her local butcher's. I know you don't eat meat now, but butchers obviously give chicken or whatever in plastic bags. So she took her own tub there.
Yes.
The butcher did laugh at her at first, and hats off to her. That was a really brave thing to do. But eventually, he's obviously selling her his meat. So he did put her meat in her reusable plastic tub.
Yes.
And yeah, that went fine. So I think for many listeners, if they're thinking, "Go, that's a bit too much. I couldn't possibly," just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? They'll
probably say no, but I think most of them do say yes, and they're happy to do it. So just ask.
Yes.
If you don't ask, you don't know. So just ask. And most of them are really kind, and people care about the planet, so they are making that effort.
Yes, absolutely. Have you got any stories of how you've influenced friends and family who've made swaps to non-plastic alternatives?
Yes, so I do have my Instagram account, The Plant Kitchen, where I'm constantly talking about reducing plastic in your life. And yes, I've got so many friends who are making changes, family back at home who are making those changes. And my mom always tells me, "Sana, I didn't buy a plastic bag today. I had my reusable bag." And I'm so proud every time she tells me this.
Bless. I felt on last Eid, I felt a bit like the plastic police, and my family were like walking on eggshells around me, and I was like, "Look, we're all on this journey together. I'm not going to tell you off for using plastic plates.
Yes.
We're all struggling together." But it was nice to see the effort they were making.
Of course.
So we used normal plates rather than plastic plates, and my cousins were like, "Oh, I wasn't sure what to get you as an Eid gift, but here's something. I didn't wrap it up either." And hadn't I talked about these issues, it wouldn't have happened. So as I said, just talking about it, it raises people's consciousness about this topic.
Yes, absolutely. It does make a difference. It does make, you can see it in your family surrounding that, they are conscious of the plastic consumption. Yeah, that's really nice.
Alhamdulillah. Now, Eid is coming up, and conventionally we don't give a lot of gifts on this Eid al-Adha, but we often do pass around platters of biscuits and baked goodies, often covered in cellophane and plastic.
Yes.
What can people do to still make it look pretty and fancy and presentable, but make it a bit plastic free?
If you want to make it eco-friendly, you could probably use paper plates, but you also get bamboo plates now. So, but if you want to go zero waste, go for a like glass plate and ask them to return it back to you, and cover it with a nice, with a soy wax wrap if you have many, or with a nice material tissue, and tell them to return it back to you.
Yes, that's a great idea. Yes. I mean, again, it's just being brave enough to ask people to return things.
Yeah, because it's not the norm yet, but we have to reach there.
Yeah, definitely. I know we've talked about reducing plastic, but obviously plastic is still very useful in our day-to-day lives.
Course.
What are some examples of plastic things which you still use, but again and again and again?
So, for example, my toothbrush. I use an electric toothbrush, and I know that the head, for example, the bristles cannot be recycled if I were to throw it in my normal recycling. So I use a company called TerraCycle. So I drop everything at one of the centers in town, where they've got these TerraCycles box, and I know that it will get upcycled and reused again. But that's one kind of plastic that's still in my life, and when I use it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there's no bamboo electrical toothbrushes just available just yet, is there?
Well, I tried bamboo, but it just was inconvenient for me, so I had to switch to the electrical toothbrush.
Yeah, I mean, we have to do what we can.
Of course, yes. And
this one as well.
Oh yes, there is also this one, a freezer bag. You can actually reuse it. You don't have to use it just once and throw it away. You can reuse these bags, and they're quite strong and convenient.
So for the listeners, Sana was just holding up to the camera a reusable fridge or freezer pouch, which you can label and stick in your freezer, and they are really handy to store whatever inside your freezer. But you can wash them, dry them, and just reuse them again and again.
Yeah, I actually use them I call them my smoothie bags because I put all my fruits in there.
Nice, nice, and reducing plastic that way as well. So thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome.
What's the biggest change you've made so far?
The biggest change I've made, I think. So my aim is to go zero waste. I'm not a perfect person. I still have plastic in my home, and the biggest change I've made is actually in my kitchen.
Okay.
So I've replaced so many. So I mean, the basic example was the soy wax wrap. I try not to get produce which are in plastic. I shop at my local market, so I get plastic-free produce. So yeah, those are the big wins that I've.
A lot of our produce is covered.
Than the wrapped one, and it just doesn't make sense. And I've written emails to those companies. I've never received response. But yeah, no, I get it that it can be difficult, but do the changes that you can. It's okay. Nobody's pushing or forcing, but just do the changes where you can, and that's fine.
Yeah.
When we say go plastic free, we don't mean that you throw away every single piece of plastic that you have in your house, because you'll be polluting more of the planet. Just reuse it, repurpose it as much as you can.
Absolutely, and I think that's really important. I know many of us, at home we've got a massive drawer full of plastic tubs which we use again and again and again.
Yes.
Yogurt tubs which have come in so handy at an occasion. So listeners, don't feel that you need to go on a plastic witch hunt. It's absolutely not the case.
You'll be hurting the planet more. Oh, we bought loads of reusable coffee cups to teachers as leaving present at the end of the year. That someone called Cornerstone, and they loved the fact that the kids were so well sealed. Bonus when carrying hot drinks around. Absolutely, it's the small changes that you make, but it's so useful and it's so important to make those changes.
And that's a great gift idea.
Yes, always give reusables. I love that.
Yeah, and that weird person who just gives people reusable gift items. Here you go.
I'm that person.
That makes two of us then.
That's amazing.
What were you saying before that? Lost my train of thought. What were we talking about before that? So yes, the free produce, the plastic-free produce. Yes. So listeners, please don't feel like you have to take out every plastic thing at home. Just do what you can and reuse whatever plastic you have. I know people who reuse cling film and foil.
And it's okay.
That's great. Yes, absolutely great. So you've taken us through your produce. What about the different areas of your kitchen? What else have you kind of swapped?
So instead of using, for example, a kitchen roll, I've got this cotton tissue napkins that I can reuse. So yeah, I've got that, and it's quite convenient. So I've got soap bars rather than using like a liquid bottle. And even for my dishwasher, I've got plastic-free taps that I can use rather than the ones covered in plastic. So yeah, it's those small changes. In my bathroom, my face wash is a plastic bottle that I'm reusing. But yeah, apart from that, it's soap. Even for my shampoo, as I said, I've got a Lush shampoo bar. So yes, that's quite convenient.
That's great. And I think there's also lots of online businesses popping up now who offer refill options.
Yes.
So I've been searching for quite a few weeks on this, and there's quite a few who will deliver to your door a big refill bottle, and then you return the plastic bottles to them.
Yes.
So it's like a closed loop. Unfortunately, these services tend to be still more expensive than the conventional ones at supermarkets. Absolutely,
they are. They are very expensive, and I think that's the problem with when you're trying to cut down on plastic. It's the price.
Yes.
The price, and finding those things, that's a big problem. I agree with you on that.
So yes, something that we hopefully will become cheaper in the future and more accessible for everybody. Okay.
Yes.
So Sana, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on here today. And we'll be here, both of us, next week talking about meat consumption with Eid al-Adha coming up. That will be a very interesting conversation.
It will be, yes.
And I hope listeners will tune in as well. So any last tips or pieces of advice for our listeners?
any small changes that you're making, it does count. You don't need to make big changes. Start with small changes. It does count. And yes, absolutely. All the best on your using less plastic journey, and you are making a difference.
You're making a difference. And obviously with the right intention, inshallah, it's a source of reward.
Inshallah, yes.
Where can listeners or viewers find your work or your lifestyle changes?
So I have an Instagram account named The Plant Kitchen. You can always follow me on that page and learn all about my work.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Assalamu alaikum.
And I think joining us next is Chris Desai from U Ocean Leicester.
Wonderful.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. So that was Sana from The Plant Kitchen. Next in the studio, we have the amazing Chris Desai from the U Ocean Project. He's just setting up his camera right now, but he's live on air.
Hey.
Hi, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad, thank you. So tell us about yourself. I know you've got a lot to do with plastic pollution. Oh, it's all yours. Tell us about your life journey to what you're doing right now.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me to start with. Appreciate it. So I'm part of U Ocean Leicester. We're a national organisation called the U Ocean Project. The idea is that we're going to remove 1 billion kilos of plastic from the UK waters by 2030. So we have different chapters all over the country that go out every single week. We basically go on boats, we do it by hand, we do it by pickers, and that's it. So the idea is that we stop ocean plastics. 80% of all plastic, generally starts in land that they find at sea.
Wow, that's a very, very big goal you have. How did you get to that point though? At what point in life did you realise plastic pollution is a problem?
Do you know what? I think it's one of those things that comes with age. Is the second biggest polluter in the world, and that's next to oil and gas. I just couldn't believe it, and I actually just took a step back and thought, oh my gosh, we're all getting older, and I need to give more to this planet than I take from it. And I think it's a realization that comes with self-awareness, really, and that comes through different ways. So yeah, I had this epiphany one day that I was damaging the planet and that I couldn't actually live that kind of lifestyle. So I decided to leave my job. I took 6 months out and went sailing. So I did about 3,000 miles in 6 months.
Wow.
And when I was at sea, I just kept seeing all these nets and bottles and barrels and containers and crisp packets. I was just horrified. And when I came back to the UK, I just said to myself, I need to just do something, and it's not going to make sense, it's not going to be logical, it's not going to be what people would expect, but I'm going to just live by the heart. And that was it. And I set up the Value Foundation, and we set up the U Ocean Project, and yeah, it kind of exploded from there.
Wow, what a journey. It's so inspirational. But on your travels, can you remember the most distressing sight in terms of plastic pollution? Could you share that with us?
To be honest, you will see these horror stories, with basic things where you see, like a fish inside gloves and things like that. I actually haven't seen anything like that as per se. It was more so when we was on the beaches, we were just seeing carcasses of birds.
Oh,
and you just see so many pieces of plastic inside the stomach. And I was like, oh my gosh, did the bird eat all of this plastic? And then the answer was yes. Then when we started working with conservationists and these different societies, they was literally showing us, their kind of footage, their pictures of opening fish up, with 30 pieces of plastic in its stomach. And then I think when you do your research even more and you realize about microplastics and that, the very clothes that we wear, that relates more back to fashion, but the very clothes we wear are made of plastic and we're breathing that in, it's going into the water. Every time you wash your clothes, you're literally putting millions of particles into the water system, which, most people don't realize that microplastics are just as bad as big pieces.
Absolutely. Can you explain to listeners a bit more what microplastics are?
Yeah.
And how we eventually eating them ourselves.
Yeah, microplastics are just very, very, very small pieces of plastic. It's polyester fibers in your garments. It can be from, a plastic bottle that's kind of degraded and broken down. But the problem with microplastics is that they mimic hormones and things like that. So it's actually affecting people, it's affecting the animals, so that garment that you wash, you're eventually going to end up eating it somehow if you eat fish and things like that. Because it just goes into the water system, and then obviously it collects and gets in high concentrations through the fish, through then us eating it and things like that. So that's the issue with microplastics, that you can't see it, but it's definitely there.
That's quite a scary thought, these small things affecting us without us knowing it. I remember you mentioning something about them finding microplastics in placentas. Can you mention that again?
Yeah, so when you look at the research out there, I think this was a study done in America at the University of Pennsylvania, I believe. And yeah, they literally found microplastics in the placentas of unborn children in mothers' wombs. That the fact that, these microplastics get through every single defense system that we have, right into our bodies. And we just don't have enough information to know how that's going to affect us. But we do know that they do mimic hormones and things like that already, which, to be honest, it's not a good thing.
No, it can't be good. Now, a listener might be thinking, well, you mentioned all the plastic that on beaches and in the oceans, but I don't throw my plastic in the ocean, so what am I going to do? I'm not responsible.
Do you know what? It's a good point. And I think the idea is that, to be honest, as a community, as a world community, we all have a responsibility. I think it's a lot of time the people that throw things into the ocean or into a river or out of their window when driving down Evington Road, say, it's actually not them people that are going to pick it up. Yeah. So sometimes the responsibility falls on other people to basically pick the slack, and actually try and heal this planet and heal this world. So
take us through a journey of a coffee cup being thrown out of a car window on Evington Road. Where could that end up?
So where do we go? So as you know, actually, from your own litter picks, in Spinney Hill Park, you've got brooks, you've got things like that. So actually, you're going to find it into a waterway at some point. We have the beautiful Grand Union Canal that runs all the way through the city, that entwines with the River Soar. I believe the River Soar runs for 95 kilometers. So yeah, that piece of plastic might just end up on a roadside, but the likelihood as well, it will go down a drain. And if it goes down to the drain, we were on the River Thames last week doing a clean-up there for the U-Ocean project, and there's so many overflows that goes directly from the streets into the River Thames, and this, I won't mention it, what we saw, but you can imagine the awful things that people put down their toilets and things like that. It was just literally on the banks of the River Thames. So that plastic cup could very well end up in the ocean.
So listeners, just to be clear, a plastic cup thrown out of a window on Evington Road could end up in our oceans.
100%, I have no doubt about it.
Okay, that's quite shocking, and I think if we just bring these conversations to people realise, actually, I should think twice about doing that. It's just, rather than it's going to end up on the road, actually it will end up in the oceans.
Of course, and it's one of those things that there's so many alternatives these days. I was just listening earlier, there's so many alternatives that you can use, from a reusable coffee mug, a reusable bottle. Gone are the days where we actually need to use these things. And this isn't a witch hunt for everyone that uses plastic. I mean, no. I'm not saying even that plastic is ultimately a bad thing. As I was discussing earlier, plastic, used in like the NHS and things like that is saving lives every single day. So I'm not here, that it's in ventilators and things like that. So I'm not saying that plastic is the evil. I'm just saying that actually if there's an alternative, we need to use it and ultimately steer away from plastic because we can't control it. That's the problem. We can't control its cycle. And unfortunately, there's a lot of countries out there as well that don't have the facilities in place, to be able to recycle, to be able to do these things. So, there's not a one solution fits all. I think we have to take everyone's circumstances into consideration. Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about the work you're doing with the ocean in India?
Yes, so we are literally just launching our U-Ocean India project, and we're actually working with a community of people called the Dalits, known as the Untouchables, which is an awful word, and I hate saying it myself. And yeah, we're actually working with this group in Mumbai to basically sort, process and recover ocean plastics. And actually we're going to pay them a higher wage than average and things like that to break generational poverty and the stigmatization that goes around caste. Do you know what? I hate even talking about it. It's something from me being of, biracial background and my family being Gujarati. It's, that same conversation that I've heard from grandparents and people like that. It's just saddening. So the idea, is that someone is better than someone else because of their birthright is ridiculous. We're all equal, regardless of race, religion, gender. And so we're actually trying to break that in Mumbai, and it's just a small pilot project, but we actually believe that Mumbai holds the key to a lot of plastic solutions.
I wish you all the success in that. It sounds like a really good project, and hope it goes well.
Thank you so much.
So more towards your local projects, what have you been doing in Leicester? I know you do some things in Leicester. What exactly is it? So
with the Ocean Leicester project, we've started off around 6 months ago doing cleanups. Absolutely phenomenal, and actually thanks to radio, people like yourselves have really helped us. So we started doing cleanups down on Watermead Park in December, and literally when we first started we collected, I believe, 72 kilos. My goodness. Which equated to over 5,000 pieces in 2 hours. Wow. And it was just phenomenal. We couldn't believe it. I mean, if you go onto the Instagram, it's at UOcean Leicester. You'll see the pictures of bottles, of plastic, of beer cans, of all the disgusting rubbish that has been left there. And we actually, some of our volunteers, they found crisp packets that were 26 years old. Wow. From Walkers in Leicester. That's shocking. It just shows that actually some plastics can end up in the ocean. Some will sit there and just degrade into the water bit by bit for years and years and years to come. And we knew the age of it from the sell-by date. And it was shocking. And since then, every single month we've had a bigger and bigger turnout. But what we are finding is that we've removed now, I think, over 100 kilos of plastic from Watermead, and we're going through the city now on the river, on the Grand Union Canal, basically just collecting plastic, collecting, recycling, and we seem to be making a huge impact. I mean, we're having letters come through from residents and the councils saying the difference that we've made. So the UOcean Leicester project is well underway. That's great. I think I joined you a few months ago. You did. And it was a great day out, actually. Yeah. In Watermead Park, beautiful park, but at the same time meeting like-minded people who care about the environment and just picking up litter and feeling that you're making a difference. So I think you're doing a really good job. No, thank you. To be honest, it's not even it's us. It's you. It's people that come out to the project itself just to join in. I always tell everyone this that I meet that someone's like, how can I be a hero? How can I be an ocean hero? And I'm just like, we don't want heroes. We want normal people. We want everyday people. We just want people that want to do one small thing, right? If 7 billion people picked up 10 pieces of litter, even in a year, work out the numbers. I'm not going to work that out. That's lots of plastic picked up. Yeah, that's a lot. We can solve the plastic crisis. We really can if everyone did a very small action. And I think through that, we're telling people that this is your land, this is your city, this is where you live. Look after it, be proud of it. Yeah. I mean, I was on Melbourne Street this morning in Highfields just doing a gardening project through work, and I just thought, let me do litter picking because I had some litter pickers in my car, and with summer, things grow really fast, so things are really well concealed in bushes. But so hard. A bit of shoveling around, and I found a lot of plastic bottles, beer cans, plastic bags, takeaway things, you name it. Pretty much everything. And for those listeners as well, we've had 2 litter picks so far in Spinney Hill Park on Saturdays, and they've been a success. In a bad way, I suppose, because we've had lots of bags of litter, lots of cigarette butts. The Indian sweet, like the supari packets. Like pan. Yeah. They're really hard to get because they're so small. Yeah. And they're notorious to pick up, but there's lots of them by the railings. Non-recyclable as well. Yeah. So but I think you're doing a really good job, and I think you'll get more people interested as you go along, and hopefully reduce the amount of litter ending up in our oceans and rivers. But in your personal life, can you give us some examples of
swaps you've made at home.
Swaps I've made.
Yes.
To be honest, I'm actually going to say, I mean, you know, I was very fortunate to grow up in a household with a very, very strong mother. You know, she's a strong woman for the environment as well.
Yeah.
So she actually brought us up using a lot of recyclable things, or just sustainable things. You know, she used to go and like refill things, you know,
Yes.
before it was cool.
Yeah, I think all our grandparents used to. There's yogurt tubs and
Yeah.
refilled. And in their way, they were doing their bit for the environment before it was all, you know, so-called green.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we have a lot to learn from that generation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think we need to move forward. We don't. We need to move backwards.
Absolutely.
You know, from the days where, you know, they didn't have plastic bags, you just took, you know, a tote bag, a cotton bag, a Hessian bag, you know, whatever it was, people took. So in my personal life, back to your question, I've not really swapped things out. I think I've actually just reduced or stopped using things.
Okay.
I think because most things I said in my house or given to me by my family are quite sustainable anyway. But yeah, I think I've just actually stopped certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of them things, I've always said I would like to eat organic.
Yeah.
And the problem is that a lot of the time, organic produce is put into single-use plastic packaging because they actually want to keep it away from the other groceries that have had pesticides and things like that. So it's actually, I've got to the point where I'll actually something non-organic just to stop the plastic. So it's not about really swapping it out. Well, it is, but it isn't, you know.
It's a tough one because you want to, at one point, support organic food going.
Yeah, of course.
On the hand, reduce plastic usage. Where do you go? And there's so many angles to look at it from, isn't it?
There's only one answer. That's to live off grid and grow it yourself.
If only we could all do that.
Oh, amen.
Yeah. So you've just cut out plastic. That's good. For people who are listening, what are some things which you think people should really try to cut out, especially living in the West, which we can do? What would you suggest?
I'm going to suggest one thing, and I think it's prevalent right now because of lockdown, because of COVID-19, things like that, is takeaways.
Okay.
Everyone, and I mean, this goes across the board. This goes from rich, poor, small, old, anything, you know. Everyone eats takeaways.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's once a month, at some point you will have eaten a takeaway. You know, whether that's a tea from across the road or Bombay Bites, you know, something. And basically, I think what people should do is just actually, when they're ordering their takeaways, speak to them and say, listen, can you do it in a sustainable packaging? I don't want, and you know this from Melton Road, from Belgrave Road, from Everton Road, everyone uses the typical plastic containers and we wash them out, we keep them, we've got 50,000 in the cupboard, you know, and your grandma's like, yeah, you know, you'll need them one day.
They do come in handy though.
You know, and I think, the idea is, you know what, let's actually just try and swap it out. Let's say to them, you know, ask them on the phone, you know, speak to them on TripAdvisor, like a review site, things like that, Trustpilot, you know, actually say, have you got sustainable packaging? Have you got biodegradable, you know, bags? I don't want plastic forks being put into my bag. You know, stop making these demands and people will listen. You know, they want business. We all want business, right? So it's very much that they're going to do what you say if enough people say it. So we need to unite together and just say, look, I don't want a plastic bag. I don't want a plastic cup. I don't want a plastic tub, and I don't want plastic cutlery. I think that's the answer.
I think you'd have to be a bit brave to do that. I was speaking to Sana earlier, and just being brave enough to say, actually, here's my coffee cup, or can you leave that plastic utensil out my bag?
Yeah.
It might be a bit difficult for some people. They could be a bit embarrassed in front, you know, a shop full of people ordering food.
Of course.
To say, actually, leave the plastic fork out.
Yeah.
I'd say to listeners, just go for it. Just what's the worst that can happen?
Do you know what I think? If you need motivation to be able to say something like that, and I fully understand it, it can be, you know, quite daunting.
Yeah.
I think if you need motivation, you just need to look at the planet.
Yeah.
You know, this is your home. This is where you live. If you want to protect it, you need to fight for it. And if you can't say no, then you don't deserve to live in it, right? You need to be able to protect it.
That's certainly thought-provoking.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned COVID. I think along with takeaways, I think masks. I don't know why, but in Spinney Hill Park we found lots of masks hanging on trees, like a mask tree. Don't know why. So if people can use reusable cloth masks, a lot better. And the gloves as well. I see them a lot strewed around car parks and pretty much everywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think there's a big balance to be had, and I think that's one of the issues that, you know, plastic, this is what I was saying earlier, plastic plastic is saving lives, but at the same time it's taking lives, you know, with wildlife and things like that, and ultimately our own. So I think it's one of these things that, we need to find alternatives that don't risk your health. You know, it's great, you know, you need to be still using masks and things like that, and gloves if you're at risk. But if possible, use sustainable versions of them. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Chris Desai, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on our show today. Where can people find you on Instagram? So
you can find us at UOcean Project, which is U and then Ocean Project. And then you've also got www.theuoceanproject.com or UOcean Leicester. And when's your next litter pick? It's going to be on Saturday the 3rd of next month, and we're going to be on boats. Brilliant. And for Green Guardians Leicester, our Instagram is Green Guardians Leicester. Please follow us and look out for our next litter pick. Thank you everybody for listening, and I'll speak to you next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Bye.